Okay, I'd like you to stop for a moment and imagine how your life would be different if you are much wealthier. How will you walk? How will you talk? How will you feel? How will others treat you? How will you feel about paying bills? What kind of luxuries will you have? What will you buy? How will it feel better to be earning more money? Think about this every day until you become very comfortable and used to it. Right, next, here are the 20 best ideas that I can give you on how to start increasing your wealth today. Any one of these will make a difference. As you start using more and more of them, you'll move even faster towards a wealthier life, towards the millionaire's mind. Number 1, save first, then spend what you can truly afford. Now, I know this sounds obvious, but poor people do the opposite. They spend what they earn. Often, they spend more than that and wind up affirming their poverty. You have to have a plan and stick to it. Come up with a plan to clear any outstanding debts and take steps towards reducing your debt month by month. As soon as possible, stop keeping your head above water and start laying the foundations of wealth. Some people find it helpful to write down everything they spend money on. Somehow, having it right there in front of them makes it much clearer. 2, study wealthy people. Find out what it is that they're doing and you aren't. Understand how they think and behave towards money and wealth. Do the technique we did where you choose a role model. Ask yourself, what do they do that I don't do yet? Read books and listen to audio programs on wealth. There's plenty of superb sources of wisdom on the bookshelves. 3, ask for help. I find that as long as you're polite and respectful, most people are willing to help. There are other reasons why asking is a good practice. It makes other people aware of who you are and lets them know you take yourself seriously. It's a sign of self-worth. It also gives others the pleasure of helping you. Not everyone will offer to help because they don't want to impose. So ask and give them the opportunity and the pleasure of helping. It's good for their self-worth as well. As Charles Givens, the author of Wealth Without Risk, says, if you want to learn about money, learn from somebody who has a lot of it. Many of the most successful people I know have said that they wish more people would have the courage to ask them for advice. 4, do regular visualizations. Create a sensory-rich experience of what it is that you want so your unconscious mind can get a clear idea. Also, walk around for an hour each day, imagining you have everything you want. Walk into a restaurant as though you are a multimillionaire or a famous rock star or whatever it is that turns you on. Do it like a method actor would totally get into the part because it conditions your mind to get used to success and it's a lot of fun. 5, make a joy list. Think of everything you love doing. Then, regularly treat yourself. Let yourself know that you really care about yourself. How do you expect other people to treat you if you don't occasionally treat yourself? 6, continually stretch yourself. Dare to dream and think big. Push the limits. I don't mean take unnecessary risks, but most achievement involves some leaps of faith. You can either choose a life of getting by and surviving, or you can push the boundaries. That's how human beings grow, by stretching. As the saying goes, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll just get more of what you've already got. Highly successful people are continually stretching themselves. Stretching means moving out of the comfort zone. It's easy to become complacent and get stuck. However, if you continually look for bigger challenges, then you continually grow. It's important to have big dreams so you can grow into them. As Donald Trump says, you have thousands of thoughts every day. You might as well make them big ones. 7, get comfortable with money. Carry an appropriate amount of money. Get used to having it on you. Get comfortable with it. This sends an important message to yourself. One technique I used was to practice writing out checks and paying in slips for millions of dollars until I felt comfortable doing it. Obviously, don't leave them lying around. Doing that process meant that I was able to feel comfortable paying out large sums of money and to paying in large sums of money. So I conditioned myself to become a wealthier person. Far too many people are scared by large sums of money. When you get more money, your financial pressures don't get smaller, they get bigger. But that's the fun of it, because you become a more capable person. You have to be prepared to accept the responsibility. Be ready to play the bigger game. The bigger the challenges, the bigger the rewards. Like mastering any new skill, you do it one step at a time, rehearse success over and over again, and then have it happen in the real world. Imagine what it's going to be like to be wealthier, so when it happens, it's not overwhelming. It's a pleasure. Number 8, always give more than you're paid for. That way, other people will have a feeling of value towards you. It was only as long ago as the 60s that Japanese products were generally considered cheap and tacky. The legendary corporate consultant Edwards Deming largely helped in changing that. He developed a strategy that was adopted by the Japanese that focused upon 2 simple but important ideas: quality control and constant improvement. Nowadays, Japan is a nation of industrial might. By changing their beliefs about what was important, they became wealthy and powerful. It's easy. Just ask yourself, how can I do it better next time? Constantly look for ways to improve. Number 9, an attitude of gratitude. Now, I know it sounds like a cliche, but it really works. An attitude of gratitude is the exact opposite of a poverty consciousness. When you start to regularly think of all the good things you have, of how fortunate you are, that sends a strong message of abundance to your unconscious mind and creates a flow of prosperity. One of the single most important things you can do is make a practice every night before you go to sleep of thinking through all the good things in your life. Your health, your friends, your opportunities, where you live in the world, and so on. And say thank you to God, to life, the universe, whatever it is that you feel most comfortable doing. A friend of mine has a great saying along these lines: today's gratitude buys you tomorrow's happiness. Of course, this also applies to people. Others love genuine gratitude, and it encourages them to help you again and again in the future. Number 10, stop seeing poverty as a problem and treat it as a challenge. Most wealthy people have to overcome it at some time in their lives. You don't have to make millions overnight. Just start making a bit more and more each day. Number 11, watch out for those old patterns of affirming poverty. For example, don't steal paper clips from the office. Anyone who's truly wealthy wouldn't need to. Feel good about paying bills. They're from people who believe that you can pay. They're more symbols or affirmations of wealth. Number 12, stop wasting time on unimportant things. Figure out what's most important to you and prioritize your life accordingly. I used to get caught with this one. Let's say your time's worth $100 an hour. Spending 2 hours calling round trying to get a lower price on something of $50 is bad money and time management. Number 13, write down good ideas as soon as they come to you. Very few people actually bother to do this. Keep a pen and paper handy or a pocket tape recorder. That way you won't be discarding your genius. Sometimes one idea could make you $1 million. For example, if you ever had an idea for a product or service, a few months later, you see it being marketed by someone else. What's the difference between you and them? They took action. They made a note of their idea, and then they went out and did something about it. 14. Regularly practice the positivity techniques. For most people, opportunities to become wealthier present themselves every day without being leapt upon or even noticed. By practicing the techniques again and again, you're conditioning yourself to focus on wealth. Financial success is simply a matter of holding certain beliefs and religiously practicing certain actions consistently. Very few multimillionaires get to be rich by accident. They do it by certain ways of thinking and behaving in the world. Now it's your turn. 15. Make sure you pay yourself. Now, this may sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people pay everyone else and don't get around to paying themselves. They fear there won't be enough to go round, and by leaving themselves to last, there isn't. In fact, you could even go one step further and pay yourself first. Every month, write yourself a check. That way you'll unconsciously adjust your spending and make different choices so that there's some money left for you. 16. Know your weaknesses. Everybody knows what they're good at, but not everyone's good at admitting their limitations. A friend of mine's father suffered from this. He was a highly creative man, but not a skilled businessman. He made a lot of money from his creative work, lost nearly all of it through bad business deals. He loved the business he was in, but overstretched himself, thinking he could do everything. As my friend said on the matter a few years later, just because you like food doesn't mean you should be running a restaurant. There's some things I'm not good at, so I can either spend time and effort mastering them or hire someone else to do them. Number 17. Get in touch with your passion every day. I remember years ago when I first got interested in hypnosis, one of the old stage performers I was learning from was a salesman. He couldn't go for long without selling something to someone. We'd be out and he'd strike up a conversation with a person on another table. He'd find out their needs and offer to sell them what it was that they wanted. Often, he didn't even have it. He'd then have to go and acquire it himself. He loved the thrill of persuading someone else. One day, he knocked on my door and asked me to drive him home. I inquired where his Rolls Royce was. He explained that earlier he'd been in the bank, he got carried away and sold it to someone. When I asked him what he thought his secret was, he said, excitement and passion are contagious. When you get truly passionate about what you want to do, others will find themselves drawn to you. If you want to know more about this kind of thinking, I recommend you read Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow by Marsha Sunita. 18. Take the fear out of making money. This is a concept running throughout Dr. Richard Carlson's book, Don't Worry, Make Money. He's got some very empowering ideas. For example, stock away a large pile of money, if you can, a year of living expenses. It may involve some self-discipline, but it'll give you a massive psychological safety net. He tells the story of two men who were both offered the same job with a startup computer company in the 70s. The offer was for very low pay, but with a large piece of stock. The man who was living paycheck to paycheck thought it was too risky and passed. The one who'd put away some savings took the offer, and needless to say, within a few years he'd amassed a huge fortune. The moral of the story is that in most cases, creating abundance usually involves some risk. As the saying goes, risk is the currency of the gods. Richard Carlson also uses another example of how taking the fear out of money helps when he says, be prepared to walk away from a negotiation. You can usually go back. When you're not attached to an outcome, you're more powerful. Other people unconsciously pick this up from you. He uses an example where, say you find a house you love, the asking price is $100,000. You know it's not worth any more than $90,000. If you're willing to walk away and not to worry about it, more often than not, the seller will come back to you because most other people are worriers. He won't want to turn down a certain thing, your offer, for an uncertain thing. He'll probably make you a counter-offer, but when he senses you're not a worrier and happy to walk away, it'll be far lower than if he sensed you had fear. Number 19. Charge what you're truly worth. There's an old story about the king's steamship. When it broke down, every engineer in the land was summoned to try and fix it, but all of them failed. Then, one little old man said that he could do it, but he wanted $300. The king agreed, and the little man took out a tiny screwdriver, turned one screw, and the steam engine began working perfectly. $300, please, said the little old man. The king, looking rather dismayed, exclaimed, $300 for turning one screw? No, replied the little man. $1 for turning the screw, $299 for knowing which screw to turn. Some people are frightened to charge what they're really worth because they fear they won't be in demand. But this strategy can keep you falsely overworked rather than giving you more money for doing less and having more time to concentrate on other ways to create abundance. Remember to reevaluate from time to time your real worth. And finally, number 20, keep going. Every successful person at some stage has to go through the frustration barrier. Colonel Sanders, who started Kentucky Fried Chicken, is a famous example. When he reached retirement age, he looked at his Social Security check and thought, I need to make some more money. So he sat down and thought through what his resources were, and he remembered that everyone loved his chicken recipe. So he went to a local restaurant and explained that he had a great recipe. He didn't want to sell it to them. All he wanted was a royalty each time they used it. Of course, they weren't interested. So he went to another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. 1,009 rejections later, he got his first acceptance. I've seen far too many people fail just because they didn't hang in there. Very few people get successful without effort and persistence. Finally, I want you to remember that true wealth is not measured by money alone. Start today. Take stock of your true wealth. Create a plan and start moving towards it. Make the changes that you need to make